Picture the roar, 90,000 people on their feet. A ball moves, a body twists, and an entire stadium loses its mind at the same instant. You know this feeling, even if you've never been in that stadium. You felt it through a screen, in a bar, in a living room full of strangers who suddenly weren't strangers anymore. You probably think this is modern: stadiums, nations, flags, anthems. But the real story is far older and far stranger than the World Cup, you know. Because long before there were nations, there were games. Long before there were flags, there were teams. And the impulse that puts 100,000 people in one place to watch a ball is not a product of the modern world at all. It's one of the oldest things your species has ever done. So imagine a different tournament. Not one held every 4 years in a single country. Imagine a Stone Age World Cup played across tens of thousands of years on every continent your ancestors ever reached. No trophy, no television, no sponsors, just people everywhere discovering the same strange truth on their own. The truth is this: every tribe already played Start in the Rainforest. For decades, an anthropologist named Colin Turnbull lived among the Mbuti people of the Ituri forest in what is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. He wrote about their hunts, their songs, their arguments, and he wrote about a game. It looked at first like a tug-of-war. The men lined up on one side of the rope, the women lined up on the other, and they pulled. But this game had a rule you have never seen in any sport you've watched. The rule was that no one was allowed to win. Watch what happened. When the men started to pull the women across the line, one of the men would let go of his side. He'd run around to the women's end, grab their rope, and start pulling against his own team. And as he crossed over, he'd raise his voice into a high, mocking falsetto, teasing the men he'd just abandoned. Then, when the women began to overpower the remaining men, one of the women would defect the other way, deepening her voice into a booming parody of a man, laughing at the women she'd left behind. Back and forth it went. Every time one side got close to winning, someone switched. The whole point was to keep the rope from ever crossing the line. The whole point was that neither side could triumph over the other. Sit with that for a second. A game engineered so that nobody loses. Because the Mbuti already understood something you'd think we'd have to relearn every generation. A community can't afford a permanent winner. It can't afford a side that always crushes the other side. So they built a game where the contest was real, the effort was real, the laughter was real, but the outcome was deliberately, beautifully impossible to keep. The tension was the point. The release was the point. The winning was never the point at all. Now travel across an ocean and back thousands of years. In the humid lowlands of what is now Mexico, archaeologists have uncovered something that stops you in your tracks. Ball courts, long, walled, sunken stone arenas, built for a game played with a heavy rubber ball. And these aren't rare. Somewhere around 2,000 of them have been found scattered across Mesoamerica. The oldest evidence goes back roughly 3,500 years to a site called Paso de la Amada, connected to the ancient Olmec. That makes this one of the oldest organized team sports humanity has ever left behind in stone. Think about what that required. A ball court is not something one person builds in an afternoon. It's architecture. It means a society decided that a game deserved a permanent, purpose-built structure at the heart of the city. They quarried stone for it. They shaped the walls. They gave the game a home more durable than most homes. The ball itself tells its own story. The players used solid rubber, made from the latex of a tree, processed with the juice of a vine into something dense and hard and alive with bounce. The rest of the world would not understand rubber for thousands of years. But here, people had already figured out its chemistry, largely so they could play. They struck that ball mostly with their hips, no hands, no feet. They wore thick padding because a solid rubber ball moving at speed can break bone. And crowds gathered on either side of the court to watch. Does any of this sound familiar? A dedicated arena, a specialized ball, protective gear, two teams, spectators lining the walls. You are looking at the deep skeleton of every stadium sport you have ever loved, laid down more than 3,000 years ago by people who had never heard the word sport. But here's where it turns strange again. For some of these games, the stakes may have gone far beyond a score. In certain ritual contexts, surviving carvings show losing players being sacrificed. The game could be a reenactment of cosmic struggle, of the sun against the darkness, of life against death, played out on a court that stood in for the universe itself. Now, most matches were almost certainly ordinary, people playing because playing is joy. But even the ritual games reveal the same buried instinct. These people took a ball, drew a line, chose sides, and decided that what happened between those walls mattered enough to build a myth around it. Why? Why does this keep happening? Why do people who never met, separated by oceans and by thousands of years, keep independently arriving at the same idea? Two sides, a shared object, a contest with rules everyone agrees to follow. Here's one answer. A game is the safest way your species ever invented to do the most dangerous thing it does. Think about what a competition actually is. It's conflict. It's one group of humans trying to defeat another group of humans. In the real world, that impulse ends in blood. It ends in raids and feuds, and the kind of violence that can wipe a small community off the map. Your ancestors lived in a world where rivalry between groups was a genuine threat to survival. A game takes that exact impulse and puts a fence around it. It says, we will compete. We will divide into sides. We will pour everything we have into beating you. And when the whistle blows, when the sun sets, when the ball stops, it's over. We shake hands. We share food. Nobody dies. You felt this without ever naming it. The rage you feel at a referee's bad call is real rage. The joy when your team scores is real joy. Your heart rate genuinely climbs. Stress hormones genuinely flood your body. And yet at the end, no matter how much it felt like war, it wasn't. You walk out of the stadium next to fans of the other team, and the whole thing dissolves. A game is a war you're allowed to survive. And notice what it does beyond that. It doesn't just contain aggression, it builds belonging. When you stand and scream alongside strangers because a stranger you'll never meet kicked a ball into a net, something ancient fires in you. For a moment, 90,000 people share one nervous system. You are not alone. You are part of something bigger than yourself. That feeling is not a bug of the modern world. It's the whole reason the games survived. The tribes that could gather, cooperate, take sides safely, and bond over a shared contest were tribes that held together. Play was practice for belonging, and belonging is how small, fragile groups of humans survived a world that was trying very hard to kill them. So there was never one Stone Age World Cup. There were thousands, on every continent. The Mbuti with their unwinnable rope, the Mesoamericans with their sacred courts, peoples across the world with running games, throwing games, wrestling games, chasing games, so common and so ordinary that most of them left no trace in the ground at all. They didn't copy each other. They didn't need to. They were all answering the same question your body still asks today. How do we fight without destroying each other? How do we belong to something larger than ourselves? How do we feel together, fully alive? And they all found the same answer. You draw a line, you choose a side, you agree on the rules, and you play. So the next time you feel that roar rise in your chest, the next time a ball moves and a whole crowd inhales at once, don't think of it as modern. Don't think of it as entertainment. You are doing something staggeringly old. You are standing in a stadium your ancestors have been building for 40,000 years. You are taking part in a tournament that never ended, that was never held in one country, that has no final match. Picture the roar. 90,000 people on their feet, hearts pounding for a game. Your ancestors would have understood it perfectly because they were on their feet too, in the forest, on the court, around the fire, feeling the exact same thing you feel now. Every tribe already played. You're just the latest to take the field.